Hello again, everyone. This is Caroline, and today is Healers Series Program 3. If you are joining now for the first time, make sure you go back and listen to the Healers 1 and 2 because this is an ongoing class. We cover material that continues from class to class, so make sure you go back and get filled in on the material that's covered already so far. So today we will continue with the topics of creation, how the blocks are created. But before I begin, as a reminder, the way we're going to proceed is first of all, I will respond to some of the questions that you guys sent me that are relevant, and then I will explain today's topics. I will go through the whole presentation, maybe about 30 or 40 minutes. As I'm speaking, this is the time to take quick notes. For example, if you have a quick question, just jot it down on a piece of paper, and then after the presentation, this will be the time for you to ask your questions. I really would love it if you could use your mics. It's much easier. It's also more fun for others to hear your voice so that they know they're not the only one in their homes listening to this. So I really would love it if you could make a little effort with that. And then, of course, after the questions, we will do the experiential portion so that you can feel and experience the information that we just covered. So again, beginning with the questions that were asked through email. Somebody was asking a question about how the energy fields are interconnected and if one has a higher vibration than the other. For example, we experienced the spirit energy field and the consciousness or mind energy field. And somebody was asking, what is the difference in terms of vibration? As I mentioned before, these two energy fields are not planetary. They are different forms of energy. This means they cannot be measured by human instruments, so because the range is much bigger, much higher. However, a human instrument can detect a certain vibration or a certain frequency. So it's not quite accurate. It's kind of, it's a big range from 1,000 all the way to infinite, in fact. But the human instruments will only detect a certain range, if that makes any sense. And the range that we've been talking about, 734 to 1,000 hertz, somebody's asking, okay, well, what happens after 1,000 hertz? So it's not that you continue adding linearly. So my human energy field is up to 1,000, and then I have to keep going up in numbers to move into the other energy fields. It doesn't work this way because it's multidimensional, and it's almost like on a radio dial. You have the AM, you have the FM, but then you have 2 or 3 different FMs. When you want to switch to another channel, you have to completely change the channel. It's like the numbers start at a different place and end at a different place. This means that you don't, if AM ends up at 1,000 megahertz or something, you don't just continue on 1,001 megahertz to the next one. Does that make sense? It's a completely different range. But this window, 734 to 1,000 hertz, is the window that allows you to access the other dimensional fields. That's the point. That's the point of all of this. It means all you have to do is get your human energy field to that vibration, and you are accessing all 3 multidimensionally all the way to infinity. That's the point of all of this. Also, another important question that was posed was, how about when you come in, we said that the cells are not, didn't have blocks before coming in, but what about babies who come in with some problems already? And so this is a slightly different topic. It has to do with your human contract. Why did you come and incarnate in this lifetime? And what is the story? What have you come to master? And so, for example, let's say in this particular lifetime, I have come to master the physical body, meaning having challenges, health issues, for example. And these health issues will give me an opportunity to master my fear of the human body, the fear of being sick, and so on and so forth. And so I will come in with certain challenges, and I will allow myself to experience these things. And so it's only to give me the contrast, or the experience, so that I can respond to it and eventually master it. So even though you have these challenges, they're not necessarily blocks until they cannot be resolved anymore, or until your human mind or your belief system is making them a block. Meaning, you're supposed to have, just to give you a quick example, you're supposed to have, let's say in this particular case, a health challenge, but the way you react to it could be you go through the experience, you choose or you remember your original essence that was healthy, that was disease-free or imbalance-free or what have you. And then, as you react to this experience, you then, for example, allow yourself to reconnect with your higher consciousness, to bring the frequency of source, to deal with the issue from an aligned way, rather than, for example, getting angry, getting frustrated, getting confused, getting lost, and making this a much bigger block than what it is. So that's kind of the difference between coming in with of course it's a much bigger story too, because it has to do with the parents and it's a co-creation and so on and so forth. But I'm trying to give you a very general idea why some children come in already with an imbalance, but it doesn't mean that they're blocks, okay? So there are other important questions, but I think we should get to today's topics, and I will continue to answer your questions. And in fact, I will be scheduling only a question and answer session, every now and then, so that you get to ask all your questions as well. All right, so I'm going to keep moving forward if that's okay. And like I said, if you have a particular unique question, you can email me. Otherwise, I will schedule a specific session for that. All right, so moving right along. So why do we need to understand how blocks are created? Because if we truly understand, if we truly go deep and see how they were created, then we have a chance to remove them permanently. If we kind of have an idea, that's not enough. For example, when we're out there, we say, okay, well, this disease or this illness comes because you have a deficiency in this vitamin, or because you're exposed to this, or because your mother had that. Well, to me, it's okay. It explains why your physical cells have reacted this way. But my question is why did you allow your cells to manifest this and this thing? Because I believe that beyond what is, you have the ability, your consciousness started with a creative flow, as we had seen before, and therefore on some level you had something to do with it. So I want to go back to the root cause, the original root cause, why you have attracted this virus in the first place. I'm not interested to know why this virus developed this way in your body. We all know that. We can see the scientific evidence of that. But I want to know why you've attracted it. So we're going to really understand how it registers in your cells, how it developed through time, and so that when I see this whole picture, then I can go to the root cause, the very first original root cause that attracted this situation in the first place. And for those who say genetic, I don't buy it. Even if it is genetic, guess what? You can still change it. That's the point. So, and also we're going to say, okay, now that we know that we have to address the root cause, well then how do you do that? How do you retrieve the information? And we're going to begin talking about the merging process. So a quick review. We said that the human mind, meaning the physical manifestation, depends on your belief. We have scientific evidence, current science anyway, telling us that if you put a cell under a microscope, you will see that the cell will manifest a physical response if the person whose cell it is believes that it will. In fact, there's something also called not just placebo, but it's something called nocebo. This means that even without any injection of any outside stimulus, the cell can still manifest a physical response. For example, a typical case is somebody that gets bit by a snake, for example, and dies. But then the snake is actually not poisonous. There is absolutely no poison in the snake, and yet this person dies from the fear. The chemical reaction of this person is so strong that you can actually have a cardiac arrest. So what happens is your cells had a physical response to something that wasn't even there. Do you understand? So this is to prove even more that the cells will respond to what you believe, not what the cells believe, to what you believe. We looked at this drawing also last time as a quick recap. So you have a flow of information coming down from your higher consciousness, but it gets filtered with time as you enter the human condition through this belief system. So everything I just said, the belief is how your manifestation is going to be. Very, very important. We looked at this also as a quick recap. You see that once, if you come in absolutely with the original belief system, so to speak, prior to incarnating, which is oneness with your original self, with your full consciousness, then you create with flow, with ease, effortlessly. Whereas once you develop new belief system that disturb this flow, you start to create new energies that were not there before, and you start to look like the person on the right. So then we looked deeper on a cellular level. On the outside, you start to have an energy field that is filled with clusters, but as you zoom in, the cell is very, very happy as it comes in, again, except other than the couple of examples that I covered earlier, and these are specific topics, but for now, as you come in, your cell has information that tell it exactly what to do. It tell it exactly how to appear. It tell it exactly how to reprogram itself, how to function, and how to vibrate forever and ever and ever. So this means that there's information inside the cell, and the cell responds to the information. If the information says you have to vibrate at this level, at this rate, and there has to be a few million of you put together in that way, then this looks like blue eyes, or this looks like that type of skin, or this looks like this height or weight or what have you. So the cell is responding to the information that is given. It is given, correct? So here's a very healthy cell vibrating very happily at 580, and then we start to put in new information. We interact with the outer reality, the 3D reality, and we start putting in new information that wasn't there before. And of course, as we add new things, this cell has more stuff in it and start to carry a heavy load. Therefore, its vibration goes down. And when it goes down, it doesn't know how to be at 180. It knows how to be at 580. So this is new information. So now its capacity, its performance is going to be compromised. So I'm showing you this again to really, really let it sink in that it's all about information. If you put in the software in the cell, it's going to perform. And again, here you are. If you look inside your body, what this means, you are creating new belief systems from the sustained emotions and thoughts. If you continue as a child growing up, you experience these feelings such as disappointment, sadness, feeling abandoned, what have you. You are creating new clusters of energy. I showed you that energy field earlier, that drawing, because I can see very, very clearly, and for those who see subtle energy, I hope these drawings are helping you. The emotions are tiny little clusters that then end up looking like a cloud, okay? And so this cloud, as you look inside the organ, as you are sustaining that emotion, starts to be inside your organ looking like a cloud. But when you focus on that cloud, you see the emotion. That's why this is very important, because as we begin to undo and heal, get into the healing part of this class, this information will come in very handy. And as we sustain these emotions, then we create new belief systems. Can you imagine the average person has about 60,000 thoughts per day, sorry. That would be really very, very scary. But anyway, so all of these thoughts are about how you feel, the emotions, and if you sustain these emotions, you end up, if I'm frustrated and angry and disappointed and I'm feeling abandoned for many, many, many hours, many, many days, many months, I am probably not loved. This is a belief system, you see. And so we continue to then implant and pour in these emotions and these beliefs, and they start to register in the cell as added information. As you saw earlier, now you can see how you are generating a form of energy when you are angry, when you are frustrated for a long time. You are manifesting a form of energy that floats around you, or that comes out of your physical brain, just like a tiny little spark, a tiny little particle of energy. Every time you think, every time you feel something that's misaligned, and it's sustained, it floats around just like it is in the picture, and eventually it gets registered. It gets written down inside your cell. Just like the DNA was information registered inside your cell, well, now you have all of these tiny, tiny little clusters. And I hope these drawings are helping you, because you see these tiny, tiny little clusters inside the lung in this particular case. That's what you're going to have to take out, because that is the information that has been registered. So check this out. How did this happen? How does this happen through a normal human life? It happens, of course, as you can see at the bottom, you see the birth, and this is just a story, but it's really a typical story. As you come in as a baby, your mother is probably not ready to have you, right? It's not ready to have me. Your father's not around, he's traveling, he's trying to make a living. This is a typical story, maybe not yours, but maybe close. And you start to, again, interact with the 3D reality and start to feel. This is how the feelings begin. Sadness, abandonment, guilt, anxiety, all of these feelings that a baby a child starts to have. He didn't come in already feeling sad, already feeling abandoned. He had to experience the mother not being ready, the father not being around in order to feel abandoned, in order to feel guilty. And so, as we saw earlier, the more you sustain these emotions, you start to create new belief systems. So by the age of 3, pretty much every human on the planet feels not wanted. Again, this is a typical story. It's not everyone's story. Again, another typical thing, the father maybe is drinking a bit too much. He leaves the house maybe. Of course, the financial debt starts to accumulate. What happens to the baby? Look at this drawing. The baby experiences more fear, more abandonment, more confusion, more anxiety. Sustaining these emotions gives him the ability to create a new belief system, and now he's saying, it's probably all my fault. How many children feel that it's their fault that their parents divorce? It's a typical thing. And that's exactly from experiencing, witnessing what is happening in the home, sustaining these emotions, coming up with new belief systems. Again, then the mother could get pregnant again. The father then leaves the house. And the new baby born probably has some sort of minor handicap or what have you. Another opportunity for me as a child to feel like I'm not loved, like I am not wanted. Therefore, there's somebody else now in the picture that is taking precedent, that is taking my parents' attention. I sustain these emotions, these feelings, and I come up with a new belief system. I don't deserve to be loved. You see? So I continue to pile up these experiences and keep feeling, because nobody tells me how to process my feelings. Nobody tells me that responding to the outside stimuli is okay, but nobody tells me what to do with my emotions, how to process. Nobody tells me that I'm creating with my belief system, so I keep piling them up. And as I continue growing up, of course, there's peer pressure. I have friends who are in similar situations, and by the time I'm 21, 22, or even before then, I desperately need to find a way out. I need to go back to the original place where I feel at peace, where I feel one with my full consciousness, with who I really am. Basically, I want to just feel reconnected. I want to feel whole. So what do I do? With no proper education in that sense, in terms of consciousness, in terms of all of this, basically, I see my friends, my buddies, drinking, drugs, what have you, as a way to escape this form of emotional struggle, emotional suffering. Are you really surprised that all these kids take drugs? I mean, this is a desperate attempt simply to feel good. It is their way to try some sort of experience that gets them beyond these piled up emotion, piled up confusion. And so eventually, by the time we're 23 or 22, 23, we are totally confused. We have no direction in life. We have no life purpose. And that's why we have young children at that age who are the way they are. And that's why society looks the way it looks today. So that's how this is a typical story, isn't it? Have you not look around? Maybe there's a slight difference with the details, but it's a typical story. In the meantime, all of these bubbles that we are creating are nowhere else but inside ourselves, right? And what happens is, the more we create bubbles, the more we create belief systems, the more they start to have a life of their own. They start to kind of vibrate and build on each other. They start to feed off of each other. You see, because if I have a belief system that I'm not deserving of love, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not wanted, therefore, I'm probably a failure. Does that make sense? And if I'm a failure, I probably don't even belong here. And if I don't belong here, then how can I succeed at any relationship? You see, it's like all of the belief system starts to pile up and start to kind of feed off of each other, so that to make sense of its existence. And by the time, again, we're 23, 24, whatever, everybody's a little bit different, we start to look like this person on the screen. And look at these strings. Do you see these strings connected to these bubbles? These strings are very important because that's how these strings are the time strings, meaning this is how you have registered this information inside your cells. And if you understand that this information is held by strings, then you will know how to undo, how to release these strings. So check this out. This is how we look on the inside, and on the right side, that's how we look on the outside. This is the average human out there. Isn't this a sad story? This didn't have to be this way. Like I said, we come in with few contrasts, with few stories to master them, to experience maybe abandonment, to experience some challenges, but to master them, to have the tools to work through the emotion, to suspend these emotions, to transcend these emotions, to, after this experience, to move on to the next experience and master it and move on elegantly, gracefully through the human life. So now what? What do we do now? Now that we see this pretty picture, where to begin? How do we begin to undo this thing? How do we begin to even deal with all of this? Well, first of all, I'm showing you this also for you to realize how difficult it is. It shouldn't be so difficult, but if you've been struggling with something for so long, if you are looking around and trying to understand, make sense of why things are so complicated, it's because that's how they were registered. They are registered inside your physical cells in a very complex way. That's why sometimes you deal with a problem that goes away and comes back. Why? Because you're not seeing the whole strings, how the strings are attaching this entire problem. So that's why I'm showing you all this, so that later you know exactly how to undo this very, very fast. Okay, so how do we begin? How do we even know where to start? You have to have guidance, proper guidance. Because if you don't have the guidance, then how do you know where to begin? Do you just kind of bring in a higher vibration and just hope for the best? Yes, of course, that helps. But if you really want to undo all of this, these blocks and all of these strings once and for all, you have to understand how they got there and how they are stuck there together in the first place. So the first thing is to know what the root cause is, what started this whole thing. Remember the story earlier? You didn't end up being like this at age 22. You have to go back to what happened at age 17 and what happened at age 12 and what happened at age 3 and then what happened at age 1 day. And then when you get to that place, then you can undo everything. But then if you are working on yourself or working on a client, how can you even go to that place? So the best way is through a technique that we call the merging process. The merging process is very, very, it's quite detailed, but for the purpose of healing, I'm just going to cover the way this works. So here I am faced either myself or with a client that has all these blocks and all of these things, but they come to me with one problem, right? They come to me with a migraine issue, or with some sort of a neck issue that they cannot resolve, or with some sort of chronic stomach issue, whatever it is. They've been struggling with this issue for years and years and years and years. So how do I go about this? I have to retrieve information that will get me directly to the root cause. I am not interested to know if this person has chronic stomach problems or digestive problems because they're eating the wrong food. Of course, that's helpful, but I want to know, why did this person create this problem in the first place? So I have to go back to the bubble that is at the bottom of this whole string. Does that make sense? So in order for me to do this, in order for me to pinpoint, go straight to that experience, I have to read the whole story of the stomach problem. The stomach problem that you have today started maybe when you were 25, when this event happened. You put in emotions, you put in belief system, and then I have to go back to what happened before when you were 17, the emotions that you put in, the belief systems that you put in, and then I have to go back to the age of 3 when this thing happened. You see what I'm saying? I have to go back to the very, very first time that you decided to pour into your stomach these new clusters of emotions and belief systems. And then I have the opportunity to then undo your current problem once and for all, okay? So the ability to go back to this first time is called the merging process. You retrieve the information very accurately. Also, this merging process allows you to remain in a very, very high vibration. I'm going to show you in the next slide how it really looks. But for now, just a general overview. This particular merging process allows you to maintain your objectivity, so to speak, because you are vibrating in a high frequency. You maintain your 734 to 1,000 hertz focus and alignment, and from that place you connect with the other person or the organ in question or what have you. So this way you bypass your own human analytical mind. For example, if I have a background as a doctor background or any sort of scientific background or if I read a lot of things in the news or in magazines, then if somebody comes to me and tells me they have a chronic stomach problem, I could be influenced by a lot of things that I have read or I have studied. For example, yes, people in this type of category or at a certain age, they start developing certain things, or I could ask questions such as, do any of your parents have this problem? You see, I could start to guide the healing according to what I think it should be. And that is not accurate. Because can you imagine, every person out there is going to be influenced by their own academic background. That's not accurate. I believe that there is a higher consciousness. Remember, we talked about this frequency that is 734 to 1,000. That is your complete universal being. That's multidimensional. It bypasses your analytical cognitive brain and your linear thinking and allows you to connect with the information in an unbiased, pure way. So this is how it looks. Here you are on the left side as the healer. And we're going to talk about how this works on yourself, of course. So you are trying to receive the information, the root cause. What is the story that this person has regarding the current issue? So I am the healer on the left side. I am going to raise my vibration through my own connection. Therefore, I am now vibrating at 734 to 1000 hertz. I am then focused and working from the spirit self aspect of my being. Then, during this session, when it's time, I'm going to extend. Imagine that this aspect of my being is stretching out. It's just stretching out and wrapping around the other person's spirit self. Not the whole thing, not the whole being, not the whole person, but only the spirit self aspect of the other person. I said earlier that the spirit aspect contains all of your being, is the window to all of your being. It's only in the spirit self aspect of the other person that I can find out the whole story. If I go somewhere here in the middle, remember that this slide earlier, how this energy field is filled with bubbles and blocks and all of this confusing new energy. If I focus here, I'm going to be very, very confuse myself. And if I come myself from this place, now I probably have a couple of blocks myself, right, as a healer. And so I'm going to bring with me my own blocks and merge with the person's blocks, and that could be a little bit of a disaster. So I have to make sure I am only in my own spirit self and merging with the healer, the client's spirit self. In the same way, for example, I am extending, here we go, extending my spirit self aspect and intending to only wrap and merge with the spirit self aspect of the other person. When I do that, I can tell the story. This will lead me to the root cause, the very first bubble that is holding all of these other bubbles together. You see? If I am focused here, I will not see it. And of course, you can do the same with an organ. For example, somebody says, well, we're going to practice this in just a minute. If you have something specific, let's keep talking about the stomach, or okay, here in this case, it's the heart. You can still get yourself to your spirit self aspect, and then you merge with the energy field. There's no such thing as spirit self for the heart. I mean, this is just a drawing. This is just to tell you that you wrap your spirit self aspect with the energy field of that organ. And this could be, of course, any organ or any other information. This could be the lung or what have you. And as you do that, then you retrieve the information specifically about this organ. So I can already tell the question that's coming. What's the difference between merging, if somebody has information, if somebody has a lung problem in this particular case, why should I go to their spirit self? What's the difference between going to their spirit self to know the story about the lung and going directly to the lung? It's a completely different experience. And then, again, we're going to try that in just a minute. We're going to try that on ourselves. We're going to merge with one organ, and you're going to ask for the root cause of the problem in that organ. But when you merge with the spirit self of the whole person and ask what is the root cause of the stomach problem, the same organ, for example, it's almost like you get a much bigger picture. It's almost like you get the story all the way to why you even came in this form as a human, like I said, because you have access to the full being of that person, and you can go, it's just a different experience, and it's also could be a bigger picture. So it really depends. All right? So now what? We are able to then merge through the merging process. Also, if you notice, just to go back here a little bit, real quick, when you are merged like this, what happens is that this flow of information it's almost like you and this organ, or you and this person, or whatever, become one. It's you become that organ, or you become that person, that client, or what have you. It's perfectly safe, don't worry, because again, you are vibrating in this aspect of your being. You're not vibrating in the human aspect of your being. So you know better. You will, in other words, you're not going to take on anything. That's exactly the point of this process, is you're not retrieving information from your human analytical mind. You're retrieving information from this aspect of you that is perfectly vibrating high and very, very safe. And so from that place, you allow yourself to become one with this organ or what have you in a very safe way, or in this person. So if you become one, therefore, you know everything about this organ or this person. Again, we're going to talk about the guidelines of healing and what's all of these ethics stuff in just a minute. But for now, we're just talking about retrieving information. So that's the reason why we need to create this energetic bridge. So now, once we have created this energetic bridge, so how does it work? So I've just merged with the other person, my client, and they're telling me they have this stomach problem. So what's going to happen? How do I know what's happening? So the way I'm going to retrieve the information, or I'm going to interpret the information, depends on what I believe, how I'm supposed to be interpreting this information. And interpreting information is what we call your guidance system. Like, for example, let's say I merge with this person's stomach, and then I see or I feel confusion about the father or something like that. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that tell me? And what am I supposed to tell the client? You see? So after this merging, it has to be dependent on your guidance system, meaning how are you receiving the information? How do you interpret the information? This information is coming in what form? All of these details is what I call the agreement. You get to decide. You get to decide. And this is very, very, very important. You will realize the importance of this maybe down the road, or maybe now. I hope now. But what happens is this. We are so used to just kind of doing things without clarity, without really, really defining things. Or if we define, we just define very general things. But I'm saying the more clear, the clearer you are, the more you take the time to define every aspect of your guidance system, the more powerful this is going to be, the more accurate it's going to be. And you will be able to interpret the information you receive accurately and objectively. And so, of course, we're going to get into this in just a minute, but how does this agreement, how do I know that, if I decide something that it's going to work? How do I know that if I say, okay, if I see red when I merge with this person's organ, it means that it's anger. Or if I see a father, it means it's the physical father, not a symbolic father, or what have you. How do I know that once I decide what it is, how it's going to work for me, that it's going to work? Of course it's going to work if you decide it, because it's your belief system. Remember? We said earlier that everything you manifest in 3D has to do with your belief. So if you're believing unconsciously all these negative things, you certainly can start to believe consciously the things that you decide to believe. You can decide today to believe a certain thing and just stick to it. So this will make more sense as we really get into it. For example, what does this healer's agreement, how does it really work? I truly think that this is the base of your healing. And if you take the time to do this correctly, you are going to be an amazing, clear, very, very accurate and fast healer. And so this is why I'm going to give you some guidelines as to what this agreement really should look like and how it will work, of course, on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, this agreement is going to clarify, okay, who does what? For example, okay, so I'm sitting here with the client, and I'm telling them, I'm retrieving the information through the merging process, right? I'm retrieving the root cause of their problem about their stomach, for example. But who's doing what? Is it my spirit self? I said it's my spirit self, but I also have a guide that's guiding me. And I also, and then the client also has maybe a spirit guide. So who's really doing what? Who's giving me the information? Who is, for example, moving the energy? Let's say, for example, especially in more advanced things such as psychic surgery, for example, who is really moving the tissue? Am I really moving the tissue with my mind? Maybe, maybe not. You see, how do we have to have clarity as to how the healing is really occurring. That's what your agreement is going to do. The agreement is going to spell out how you are going to prepare for it, how you're going to upkeep your instrument on a day-to-day, before a session, during a session, after a session. All of these things, the more detailed, the more clear, the clearer you are, the more specific you are with this agreement, the more accurate your healing will be. You're going to be amazed if you take the time to do this. And the more accurate you are, of course, the faster the healing is. Because you see, I'm not just there trying to figure it out, trying to sort it out, trying to, kind of put my hand there and hope that this energy comes through, but I don't really know where it's really coming from and who's doing what. It's very, very clear. It's defined before I even begin. You see, you're putting the information, you're putting the software in your computer. The fact that you have a computer doesn't mean that it functions very well. You have to teach it to function very well, to do what you want it to do. So this agreement works like this. You are inputting all the software for this formula and this formula and this formula and that formula, and you're telling your computer to use the software for this case, in this case this way, in that case this way. So you're taking the time to program, to upload all the software. That's what the agreement is. And the more you define the details of this upload, the more brilliant your healing is going to be. For example, check this out, okay? So you're sitting here with a client. Who does what? Do you really know who does what? For example, here you are in your spirit self. You are retrieving information, right, only from the spirit self aspect of your being and merging with the spirit self of the client, right? But then the client, you see this little ball of light. It seems like just an orb or something, but this is a being. This could be a type of being that is supporting this client at this time, okay? But also, I may have a consciousness, another being that is maybe helping me sustain the space or hold the higher vibration, you see? And so I'm not the only one. They're not the only one. Plus, I am bringing this connection, remember? The connecting to source. So I am also bringing a very, very high, pure vibration from source. Am I the one doing this, or am I being assisted by my spirit guide? Or can I uphold this space for everybody? How does it really work? And I have to say it's case by case. But maybe I have a particular type of being that shows up to do a specific type of task. Maybe in the middle of this session, I need to switch to a tool or something called extraction, or again, let's say maybe it's psychic surgery or whatever. Well, it's a particular type of being that I need at this particular time that's going to show up. Are they going to do the work, or am I doing the work? Or are they using my body to do the work? Who is doing what? And if I look also more clearly on the top right-hand side of your screen, I also see another type of being. So what is this being doing? Is this just protecting? Is this just healing? Who is doing what? This is a very nice picture, and I mean, it's sometimes even more than this, but it's really getting crowded in there, don't you think? And if you don't know, you the healer on the left, if you are not clear who is doing what, or let me just put it this way, in your agreement, if you decide who does what beforehand, your session will be so much more accurate, so much more brilliant, because as I said, as you are tuning in to the client and receiving information, you're not all of a sudden saying, oh, I need that being to do this, or I know how to do this. I can move this tissue with my mind energy from my own brain. Do you know that? And so that's the reason for this, is understand that all of this needs to be preset. And so in the meantime, the very first part of the agreement, just so that we can start experiencing all of this, the first part is to decide the setting. This is just an example, but you can decide. You can change this if you want. To me, this works very, very well, and it's very clear. The client opens their energy field for you to see what they cannot see. If they could see what the problem is, then they wouldn't come to see you, right? So who does what? The client is allowing you to see, right? Or to retrieve the information. What you are doing is identifying the root cause of the issue, and as quickly as possible using various tools and techniques, which is what you're learning here, which you will be learning, and you are directing the healing. You are not, you may be doing the healing yourself, but you are directing the healing. You're saying this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, but you are still allowing the client to lead the intention. You are telling the client, you say it after me, you decide, you say it, asking and intending, so that they feel and they experience the creation coming from them. Of course, I showed you earlier the spirit beings and the spirit self. This is the aspect and the beings that actually move the energy. In other words, as I am telling the client, say I ask and intend to remove, the emotions from this organ, or this belief system from the organ, that much they can do. But let's say we're taking a whole cyst or something, we're taking a whole lump or a whole thing like that. More likely, the client will not be able to do that, because it is too much information that was put in the cell that is very difficult. In this particular case, 99% of the time, it will require another form of being to help with this extraction. But of course, they're going to respond to what the client is asking. So the client is still creating what they want, and he's being assisted by their own spirit self and guides, and the same thing goes for you. Like I said, this is a good setup, but if you want to change it, it is up to you. To me, this works very, very well. So in the meantime, let's begin to experience what we just talked about. For now, we're going to draw our agreement. This, by the way, is going to take a long time. It's going to change with time, because as you grow yourself, as you begin to do more healings, you will discover more things, and you're going to want to change and adjust the agreement as you go along. But for now and for today, we're just going to define the very first point of the agreement. We agreed on who's doing what in the session. And now, how do I retrieve the information? So point one, the first thing, is I'm going to retrieve the information through my heart center, through my feeling. Because if I start to retrieve the information through my thinking, again, the human mind is going to jump in. even if you think you are merged with your spirit self and you're vibrating higher, but it's a very delicate kind of balance to hold. So you want to just erase that possibility altogether as much as possible. We are so used to being in our heads. We are so used to just using our analytical brain, our analytical mind to experience everything in 3D. We're not used to feeling. And so that's the reason why if you focus on your heart and receive the information through feeling, then you will bypass your analytical human mind to interpret the information. It's out of the picture. So that's the first clause of the agreement. I'm going to receive the information through feeling through my heart. The second clause is I agree that everything I feel is about the client. So as I begin the session, everything I feel is about the client. That's agreement number 2. So here I am, I've merged with the client and he's telling me I have chronic stomach ache, right? So I do the merging, I ask to receive the root cause of this chronic problem. And as I am connected in this merging, the two energies are merged. I showed you the drawing earlier, we're going to go back to it. I'm going to start to feel. I'm going to feel. So let's say I start to feel very angry. I start to feel frustrated. I start to feel very, very sad. Whatever I feel is about the client. It means the client is angry, the client is sad, the client is disappointed, is frustrated. It's not me. And because this is a very crucial point. If you start to feel and you don't have this agreement, you're going to feel, for example, the confusion and the frustration, and you're going to think that you are the one who's frustrated or you're the one who's confused, and the whole thing gets all messed up. But if beforehand you decide in the agreement, that's what I'm saying, you have to spell it out. Everything I feel is about the client. If you feel confused, then it's the client that's confused. It's the stomach that's confused. If you feel, again, anger, frustration, you have already set the tone of this agreement beforehand. Therefore, when you are in the session, these emotions and these feelings cannot confuse you. You stay right on track, you stay clear, and then you begin to clear. This will take you to the root cause, the very first bubble that created this chronic problem. I think I'm going to stop here because it's been to make sure I allow time for questions and also for to do the exercises. So the experiential portion. So here we go. For those who have a question on what I've covered today so far, this is the time to ask the question. Of course, as we continue with this work in the next class, we're going to go deeper into the agreement, and you will see how defining this agreement actually will will make your healing ability very, very sharp. Okay. So here's the first comment or question. Since your first class, I have experienced for myself the ability to heal myself and others. I had a vision. I was a tree. My hair was the roots, my spine, the body of the trees, and my arms and legs, the branches, and my nerves were the veins. I've always been told to visualize myself a tree with roots coming out of my feet. This was a totally new vision for me, to see my roots come from my head, reaching out to the universe. Can you help me get clarity on this? Again, Dominique, this is what exactly this agreement is about. And in fact, I did a whole series called the Guidance Series, Mastering Your Guidance System. It's in the library. And we took the time to define the guidance system. You decide how your guidance system is going to be. For example, because you see, Your guidance system is like your own inner mechanism. Some people are very good with colors. Some people can visualize things very easily. Some people cannot visualize anything, but they can feel a lot of things. So I'm going to, if I say to everybody, okay, you're all supposed to see red. When the client has anger, you're all going to see red. Or if I say, when you see red, it's always anger or whatever. But what if you just don't see colors that much? Maybe you just feel, and you're feeling the emotion rather than seeing the color. So I'm imposing on you a particular guidance system. Of course, there are certain things that are typical, I have to say, but the details of this guidance system you have to create. So for example, and a lot of it is symbolic too. For example, Dominique, in your case, you have to decide. Somebody told you to visualize that, or if you had the vision, you already had the vision. So this is your higher self that gave you this experience, your spirit self, in order to tell you that this is how you're connected, this is how you are reaching out. But what does the tree mean to you? What is it a symbol of? You see, maybe to you, the tree feels that you are connected to nature, for example. But maybe for somebody else, the tree is something that's very old, that's very ancient, that's very wise. So which one is it? Which is accurate? See, there is no one answer. It's the same with dreams or symbology. Everybody is going to have their way to interpret information if you have an agreement beforehand. And so if I'm somebody that can visualize very easily, I'm going to say, all right, so my agreement goes like this. When I start to merge with this client, I want to see the colors. If I see a very dark color, it means it's fear or or anger or what have you. If I see it means it's fear, for example, a very dark color. If I see red, then this means it's anger. If I see yellow and orange, it means it's happiness. You see? Because I'm somebody that can visualize very easily, then I can create my agreement this way, but I will do it before the session, or before the experience. So when the experience comes, I already decided how I want to be corresponded with, so to speak, communicated with, right? And I will receive the colors because I can see them very clearly depending on what the story is. I will say, what is the root cause of this stomach problem? And I will see lots of red. I know that red means anger, then I will say it's anger. Does that make sense? So that's why doing these, creating this agreement, like I said, we're going to continue going through this in the next class. We can't do everything in one class. Will really be helpful. And like I said, you can look at the class online, Mastering Your Guidance System. Okay, France, you're on the air. Do you have a question? Your hand is up? I guess not. All right, folks, please, this is the time for questions. So if you do have a question, I really, really appreciate it if you can speak up. Okay, Sylvie, do you have a question? All right, so I guess this is the time. You guys, this is the time to ask questions, so please be prepared with your questions. Somebody else is asking, Saya is asking, is it possible, let me see here, is it possible to prevent a block from forming? If you have the information and are aware of your thoughts, by releasing the thoughts instantly, would preventing a block from forming defeat the purpose, since we are here to master the human fears? Well, that's the idea, is that if you get it quickly enough, if you realize that you are having these problems so you can master them, then you are supposed to be stopping the block. That's the point. That's the game. So let's say you are, for example, you keep getting sick, for example, right? And so you keep, every time you get sick, you go into the, excuse me, I don't trust my body. I hate my physical form, and I'm angry, and what's wrong, and I have no control over my body, and so on and so forth. Then you're not mastering anything, right? But then you start creating all these emotions and these belief systems. And then you're going to get sick again. Excuse me. And so then you're going to continue to add these bubbles. But after the second and third and fourth time that you have the same thing happen to you, you can go, aha, wait a minute. I know why I keep repeating the same thing. Because it's supposed to be a challenge for me. It's supposed to come up so that I can master it. Then at that time, you can stop from regressing or adding more bubbles. But the idea is the faster you recognize these challenges as a mastery exercise, then of course, the faster you will basically stop from creating, you will not be creating the bubbles because you have caught it basically on time. Does that make sense? That is really the game that we're here to play. We're supposed to create an experience, a human experience. If everything is very, very, very easy and just like there's no contrast whatsoever, then what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing here? So there has to, I'm not saying it has to be hard. I said there has to be contrast. That's what material experience is about. Contrast does not mean hard. Go ahead, Kim, do you have a question?
Yes, I hope I can phrase this properly. Are there any blocks or conditions or say, even a genetic condition that one would come in with and that you are supposed to, rather than get rid of it, heal it, that you're supposed to live with it for some reason, that be examples for other people, or to tolerate it for your lifetime? Does that make sense? Are there any conditions like that?
It's a very good question, and it's not about the condition. It's about what you do with it. That's the mastery. So let's say you have a congenital condition and you realize that you're here to master it. You can master it in many different ways. You can master it. Actually, there's two questions in there, but let me answer the one part of it. You can master it by saying, I'm going to keep at releasing the fear around it. I'm going to master it to embrace it or what have you. I'm not going to be afraid of it anymore. I'm not going to allow it to control me anymore. I'm not, for example, this is a way of mastering. Another way of mastering, or again, healing it, really reversing it in a healthy way, what have you. This is a way of mastering it. Another way of mastering it is also get to a place of acceptance of what it is or whatever. And if that's what you choose, to live with it, to be an example for others, then that's fine too. The idea is not the condition. The idea is what you are choosing with it as a form of mastery. Do you see? So there's that going on. On the other hand, another part of your question was, are we supposed to live with some of our blocks for a certain time? Like before we're supposed to kind of catch on with the solution? Yes and no. It has to do with your karmic, your integration. And, we covered this in the class, Mastering the Human Mind. There is an element because everything is energy. So if you've done something in a previous life, for example, you have accumulated, you see clusters of energy. It's not about being punished for, let's say, in a past life or in another life, you have created very, very negative energy. I don't know. Maybe you've hurt someone or people or something like that, right? So this hurting, translates into clusters of energy. These little blocks that you saw earlier in your energy field. It looks like that. Hurting somebody, if you look at this person, is a bunch of clusters of information. So when you leave this body or that lifetime, you take with you these clusters. So, they become part of your consciousness. And the only way you resolve them is to bring them back in this human form to master them, you see. So in that sense, there is a karmic element, there's a karmic integration that needs to happen in this particular life. And if in this past life or past lives you have accumulated many clusters, meaning you hurt many people or what have you, let's say for 20 years or for many lifetimes, then when you come back in this lifetime, all these clusters of energy are in your energy field, and they equal, for example, 7 years to be resolved. Does that make sense? Because it's energy. So if you want to transmute energy, something that took 1,000 years to build, to be created, it's going to take 7 years to be undone. Does that make sense? And so that's why there's a slight element of time. However, again, that's the point of this whole conversation, is that when you come in and you realize that this is a karmic integration problem, then very quickly you can address it and master it, rather than saying, because in certain cultures, you're supposed to live with it. You're supposed, in some cultures, they'll tell you, well, you probably killed somebody, then now you have to suffer, and that's, and there's nothing you can do. And I say, that's not true. I say, you may have done something or whatever, but it's not for you to be punished. It's for you to experience this energy for yourself and to master it, you see. And so the faster you realize that, the faster you can suspend time and shorten the time and master it as quickly as possible. Okay, good question. Go ahead, Jessica.
Hi, Caroline. I'm going to try to articulate my question. While I've been watching the review, I realized a block in myself about healing, and that is the difference between seeing someone's block that clearly and wanting to heal it, but the difference between that and taking it on yourself. I realized my fear has been, well, now I'm responsible to fix it. And I just felt like you had something probably really good to say about the difference between healing as we're practicing here versus being responsible for someone else's block. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And that's exactly another very important point for your agreement. You have to decide, who are you as a healer? Are you out there trying to heal the world? Are you out there supposed to, when people come to you, you're supposed to clear them from their blocks, just like that? That's what I'm saying. This seems, you don't realize the importance and the depth of this this agreement. You have to take the time to decide what you are here to do, and stuff like that. For example, am I responsible for the blocks, or am I taking them on if I'm opening myself and things like that? And so all of these things get resolved in the agreement. You have to take the time to write your contract and say, I am presenting myself, for example. Again, we're going to go over all of this as we go more into the class, in the next class and the next. This is an ongoing process, you see, because the more you understand, the more you heal yourself and others, the more you're going to decide how you want to heal. Some people have this impression, a very, Jesus-like thing, that, we should be there, and you're entitled for that perception. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just making a point that you have to decide if you are there to heal others without their knowledge that they were healed, or are you here to teach others about how they created so that they can create again positively. You have to decide all of these things. So this responsibility is resolved again as you write up your agreement. Take the time, and that's what we're going to be doing in this course throughout the course. All right, Dana's asking, I want to know about my respiratory system. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise now, Dana, just after this last question, so that you can see what the problem is with your respiratory system. Can you, instead of, Anna's asking, can you, instead of colors, use numbers? I always see much numbers, of course, and then there's geometry as well. Many people see, for example, form and geometry. So if you have taken the time to create your agreement, and you say, when I see infinite, for example, which is kind of a number, if you see the infinite sign, it means it's perfectly aligned, it's perfectly clear. If I see a lower number, it means this. If I see, so again, you get to create your own guidance system, and I'm going to guide you through this through every class. Go ahead, Marty.
Hi, Caroline. I want to know if you could touch on the time strings again. You had mentioned the importance of them, and some were color-coded, some are blue, yellow, green. Was there a time significance, or is that another topic that you'll deal with later?
No, it's not. It's not a time significance. It was just to show you how complex it was. In other words, I was trying to, when we do the drawing, it's just to show how many there are and how they get all kind of stuck together. And this is when I look at the energy field and I see someone's, a problem, all of these tiny strings are like a fishnet, it's like tiny, kind of matrix, so to speak. So this is just a drawing to kind of try to show you, to differentiate. There's not one more important than others, but it's kind of like, for example, let's follow this yellow one, okay? So this yellow one, if somebody comes with a headache, constant headache, which would be the first bubble on top, right? You would think, right? So, but I have to see, with this training, it's not enough for me to clear this bubble, because you see this bubble on top, it's connected to this bubble right here through the yellow string, and this bubble right here, and these 3 or 4 or 5 other bubbles all the way down here. So your headache problem could be very much related to your ovary if you're a girl, or your genitals, whatever, if you're a man or what have you, to tell you that then the root cause of the problem has nothing to do with the headache, you see. So these strings, as you begin to do this technique and learn these things, will allow you to go backwards in time and follow the very first time that you created your current problem. And if you go down at the very bottom, the one that has to do with your reproductive organs, for example, you see that it's not only the yellow string that's connected to it, but then you have blue strings and green strings and red strings, meaning other belief systems that are all interconnected. That's why it's very difficult to heal everything. I'm not saying it's impossible. In fact, it's not impossible. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But that's why we don't get there very quickly, because they're so interconnected. They're all mixed together, and it's a bit of a mess. And so the faster you understand this, the faster you can just undo all of these strings very, very quickly. Okay? Let's see. Last question, so we can do the exercise. We're running a bit late. You mentioned about the emotional blocks being like clouds. During the meditation, sometimes I come to a point where I feel like a balloon on my right side. Is this the many blocks, clouds forming like a layer, which I'm feeling? I'm trying to understand what I'm feeling. Thank you. Oh, of course, again, you see, the more you work on the more you define your belief system, your guidance system, the more all of this will, when you feel kind of a strain or something like that, if you know how to use this merging process, retrieve information accurately, then you will know right away. In your particular case, John, it's more about not trusting, fearing to go beyond. It's kind of like you expand to the outer layer of your energy field, and you're really kind of afraid to jump in, to just go to the next level that's going to expand you all the way. That's why you feel kind of like a balloon blowing up, and then you get stuck there. So it has to do with trust. You're afraid to let go. You're afraid to just go all the way, that sort of stuff. Okay? All right. So there's still a couple of more questions, few more questions, but we're running a bit late. I think, why don't we get to I hope that's okay. Why don't we get to the experiential portion? The idea also, Dana, I see your comment here. The idea is to use this time to also resolve our own issues, our own problems. So what we're going to do now is to heal some issues that we've been struggling with, right? And we're going to use this process that is the merging process, and we're going to merge with our own self and an organ that we're struggling with. Let me ask you this, by the way. Of course, let's see if we have time for a quick response. Maybe you can email me. But the question is this: if we can retrieve all of the information from the higher self, then can we not also address a problem that's not physical? Like, for example, let's say somebody comes to you and they don't have any particular physical problems, but they have more of a problem such as they are confused about life, or they don't have a direction, or they are chronically depressed. So what do, right? So in this case, you again, this is the time to merge with their higher consciousness, with their spirit self, in order to retrieve the information. The question would be not what's wrong with this liver or what's wrong with this stomach. The question is, why? Show me the root cause for this person, chronic depression. And what will I see? I will see all of these strings, you see? Because the reason why this person has these strings and these bubbles inside them, but the symptom that they have is that they're chronically depressed. They don't necessarily have a physical problem. Does that make sense? And so as we begin to ask the root cause, then we will feel these bubbles, and then we will start clearing them one at a time. Okay, so the idea now is to practice this merging experience. And of course, needless to say, when we are finished with this merging and we've retrieved the information, we basically just sever this connection right here in the middle, so that we can go back to being ourselves and who we really are, in our own contained space. So let's begin with the exercise. We're going to practice this merging. We're going to work on 2 or 3 different problems for ourselves, and later we will practice, you can practice this on your own with other people. We're going to go to a particular organ, even if you don't have a problem, a serious problem, but like, let's say you have your shoulders are stiff or something like that. It doesn't have to be serious. But if you do have a chronic problem, physical problem, I'm going to guide you to merge with this information. Then the question is, show me the real root cause of this chronic problem. And then we said the first agreement is that anything that you feel is about the client. In this case, it's about the organ. So whatever you feel is going to be about the organ. We're going to release it and release it and release it and let it go. And we're going to merge with something else, and I will guide you through it to practice retrieving information through feeling. All right? So here we go. Sit up straight with your feet flat on the floor. Go ahead and close your eyes. Breathe in deeply through the nose, deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Release the tension in your neck, shoulders. Just relax. Again, deep breath in through the nose, deep, deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Quiet your mind. Ask for your thoughts to just quiet down. Let go of the tension in your neck and shoulders. Just relax. And again, deep breath in through the nose. Deep, deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Let go. Go to your heart center. Ask to feel present, grounded. We ask and intend to create sacred space. Keep away the distracting thoughts, distracting information, distracting energies. Our intent is to raise our vibration, retrieve information accurately through the merging process, so that we can heal very fast and permanently, return our cells to their original blueprint and vibration. Breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth. As you exhale, expand 360 degrees. Ask to merge with your spirit self. You're about 7 to 9 feet away from your physical body. Just like you saw in the slide, there's an outer layer of your energy field called the spirit self. That layer allows you to vibrate at 734 to 1000 hertz. Ask to be merged with that layer to function from that layer. Set your intent one more time that you wish to retrieve the root cause of this particular imbalance from that aspect of your being. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale through the mouth, imagine that only that layer of your being is extending and wrapping around one organ inside your body. Choose only one organ, and as you feel that you have wrapped around only that organ, focus only on that connection, let everything else go. And from this point on, everything you feel is the root cause or leading you to the root cause of this problem. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale, allow yourself to feel. What do you feel? If you feel frustration, it is the organ that is frustrated. It is the clusters of emotions that are inside this organ. Just feel. If you feel wobbly, confused, then this organ contains information such as wobbly and confused. Ask for more clarity, retrieve more information about this organ. Breathe in through the nose. As you exhale through the mouth, imagine All of these feelings, emotions simply dissolving. Imagine a white cloud that is pure energy, that is transmuting, dissolving all of these emotions. How does this organ feel? Breathe in through the nose as you exhale through the mouth. Now just imagine that you are spinning every cell in this organ at its original spin, original vibration. You don't need to know the exact frequency. Ask your spirit self to support and to allow this organ to return to its original vibration. As it continues to vibrate at the higher rate, more clusters, tiny clusters of misaligned beliefs and thoughts and emotions dissolve. Very nice. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Go back to your spirit self, 7 to 9 feet away from your physical body, that layer of your being that is pure, complete, unbiased. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And now extend one more time this aspect, this layer of your being, and wrap it around another organ, another part of your body that you feel needs help. Just allow, visualize, or imagine, or just feel this extension from the spirit self wrapping around that organ. From this point on, everything you feel is about the organ. If you feel nothing, it means this organ feels nothing. It means it's disconnected. It means it is separated, isolated. Just feel. Allow yourself to feel. As you begin to feel this information, breathe in through the nose. As you exhale through the mouth, now send another cloud of yellow, like a canary yellow light, that's very soothing, with some silver light, through the tunnel that allowed you to wrap around this organ. And now fill this organ with this yellow and silver light. Let it fill every cell of this organ. Imagine the soft yellow and silver going deep into the cell, transmuting all feelings, emotions, belief systems that are misaligned. Imagine them evaporate, transmute into a new form of light that is white and silver. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Allow this organ to continue to absorb this healing higher frequency. Return to your spirit self aspect, 7 to 9 feet away from your physical body. And now, ask to resolve a mental or emotional problem, not necessarily a physical problem, for yourself or for another. If you are working on yourself, then you remain exactly where you are. If you are working with another, then you extend that aspect of your being and wrap around their spirit self. Here we go. Ask the question, show me the root cause of this problem that I have not been able to resolve. Breathe in. Exhale, and now merge with your spirit self or their spirit self. From this point on, what you feel is the root cause of this problem. Take a moment to feel. What are you truly feeling? Allow yourself to feel more, go deeper into this understanding. Allow yourself to feel and experience everything that has to do with this problem, the root cause. Take you straight to the first root cause. Since you were born, even before, if necessary. As you begin to identify this root cause, breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and fill your spirit self with a pink and silver light. Just imagine a cloud, pink and silver, filling your spirit self or that of your client. As this pink and silver light fills the spirit self, the root cause dissolves. Breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Slowly bring your focus back to your heart. Detach from your client's spirit self if that's where you are. Ask to feel grounded present in your own space. Intend for the healing, the clearing to continue, and let it go. Slowly, whenever you're ready, open your eyes. All right, folks. For those who have a quick comment or question, this is the time. Joyce is asking, do we have to heal ourselves at all levels before we are able to heal others? Wouldn't that be nice? To me, that is absolutely necessary. To what degree of healing, of course, that is to be discussed. But the idea, you see, the clearer you are, the more accurate you will be in your healing, because there will be very little, if anything, in your energy field, in your consciousness, that you are holding at any time. And so that's the idea, and you could put in your contract that another line item, I wish to heal myself as much as possible before I begin to heal others or work with others. So Anne is saying, when I asked the root cause for my sadness and not wanting to be here, it took me to taking in the energy of my mom when I was a little girl. There you go. That is the root cause. This is the very first time, Anne, that you started to think that you didn't want to be here. When your mother, you were sensing, the energy of your mother. You see how Anne has had these experiences throughout her life, but with this work, with this process, she was able to go straight to the very first time that this happened. And if she resolved it then, meaning the very first time as a little girl, then the entire string would resolve as well. Yes, you're on the air. You have a question or comment? Anemi? No? Okay. All right, folks, I think we're going to wrap it up here. So a lot to work on. Merge over and over and over. The more you master this process, the faster you're going to become in the healing, into the retrieving the information. And if you know what you are retrieving, then you know exactly what to heal. If you are just hoping, to get this and get that, but it's not clear, it's not specific, it's not written out, it's not thought of beforehand, then your work will not be so clear, will not be accurate, will not be powerful. And so that is the reason for all of this. So practice the merging process. I will keep explaining how this merging process also is very important for receiving information, not just about an illness, but in the learning process, how we actually learn information, meaning in the educational system as well. That's a different topic. But it's really the base of consciousness, retrieving information from consciousness to consciousness. So we're going to continue working on this. And of course, we're going to keep talking about the agreement, go deeper into that in the next class, and we're going to start doing more reversals also in the next class. So as always, please send me your questions very clearly in the subject matter. Make sure you write healers program so that I can bring them to the class, and I will create a session specifically for more healing and for more questions. So I hope you've enjoyed this tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much.